Hey everyone, History Mystery Man here, coming to you from my home makeshift studio. That's right, I finally made it home to Sylvania, Ohio this weekend. Sylvania is actually a suburb of Toledo. Two wonderful communities, great places to raise families. Love, love, love Sylvania and Toledo. And one of the first things I always do when I come home to Toledo, my hometown, and I've already done it this morning, I went for my 4-mile walk out at Wildwood Preserve, Wildwood Metro Park. It is the mother of all metro parks in Northwest Ohio. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's not just the beautiful park that gets my attention, it's the fascinating story behind it. At the center of Wildwood Preserve is the showpiece, the Manor House. The Manor House was the home of R.A. and Paige Stranahan. The Stranahans, R.A. Stranahan and his brother F.D. Stranahan, were the founders of the Champion Spark Plug Company. And for those of you old enough, you know the brand Champion Spark Plug. It's iconic, one of the most iconic spark plug brands in all of the world. Their story is fascinating. The Stranahans were actually from Boston, Massachusetts. So we rewind the clock back to about 1905 when Albert Champion, a French bicycle racer, founded the Albert Champion Company. And who were his partners? R.A. and F.D. Stranahan. Now we don't know how it happened, if Albert Champion was somehow forced out of his own company he founded or left on his own accord. We don't know, but what we do know is that R.A. and F.D. Stranahan walked off with the Champion brand, the Champion patent, and they carried the name off into history. In fact, Albert Champion, for the rest of his days, was not even allowed to use his last name in business. Can you imagine? Albert Champion could not use his last name, so he took his initials, AC, and founded the AC Spark Plug Company, a brand you'll probably also recognize. It became AC Delco and whatever it is now. But that's a fascinating story in itself. Anyway, the Champion Spark Plug brand, FD and R.A. Stranahan, they were really fledgling along in the beginning, couldn't get it going. The company was about to fail. Then they finally secured a contract with Willys Overland of Toledo, and one of the stipulations in that contract was you got to move to Toledo. So it was a no-brainer for a fledgling startup company. So R.A. and F.D. Stranahan moved the Champion Spark Plug brand to Toledo. They eventually secured contracts with not only Willys Overland, but Henry Ford, the Ford Motor Company, and they got wealthy beyond their wildest of dreams. And it was during the Great Depression, when everything was in a downturn in the Toledo, Ohio area. Remember, Toledo was a manufacturing hub and really hard hit during the Great Depression. And the Stranahans did a lot of philanthropic things for the area. They built the 32,000 square foot Manor House during the Great Depression, employed over 100 local craftsmen. They even bust in German prisoners of war to work their 750-acre farm. They didn't torture them, they just put them to work, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. Anyway, as time went on, World War II, and now we're beyond, and the economy's booming up until the early 70s, when the economy went into another big recession. It was an energy crisis turned global recession fueled by double-digit inflation. It was a mess in this manufacturing Toledo, Ohio area. And so the Stranahans, by the 70s, were dead and gone. The Manor House and the property still owned by the family, but they were ready to sell off. And here comes the Cavalier Development Company, just, frothing at the mouth for their opportunity to develop this beautiful property. They wanted to turn it into condo country. Oh no, condos on this beautiful property. And of course, Toledoans at the time, they were really taxed. Many of them were out of work, so asking to raise their taxes was just out of the question. Although there was a grassroots campaign that started by a local veterinarian, Dr. Bill Mewborn, to the rescue on a mission to save the park. But he was really up against the wall. He partnered with some local business guys. They set out on a grassroots campaign. They literally went door to door, pounding on doors. Hey, we got to save this property. We want to make it a park. And Toledoans just weren't having it at the time because, and people were out of jobs, and you got this $500,000 levy on the ballot, and people would not hear or have anything to do with raising our taxes. So they were really struggling, and it looked like the Cavalier Development Company was going to get their wish. But it was on the ballot, and we're coming up on the election, November of 1974. The economy is still junk, and they were really down and out and had pulled their last card until Dr. Bill Mewborn. He got a call that a deer was stuck in a concrete culvert in another nearby park, Olander Park in Sylvania. So he, as a good veterinarian and the good man he was, he went out and rescued this deer from the concrete culvert. And while he's doing this, he had this brainstorm. He had this great brainstorm that he was going to, hey, what if I call the media? I'll take the deer, I'll wrap it in a blanket, I'll take the deer, I'll take it out to Wildwood Preserve, the park area, which was about to become condos. I mean, the bulldozers were right on the edge, ready to crank it up. I'll take the deer, I'll call the media, I'll invite them all out, and I'll let the deer go and see what happens. Well, and that's exactly what happened. He called the media, very hot. This was a hot topic of the day, so they were all there. The Toledo Blade was there, and he had this deer, and he had it wrapped in a blanket, and he set it down, unraveled it from the blanket, and let the deer go. Just go, not knowing what it would do, and almost by script, I'm not kidding you, the deer turned around and paused for a brief moment and stared right back at those cameras that were already cocked and loaded and ready to go, and stared, and then poof, the bulbs went off in this beautiful shot of this gorgeous, wonderful deer. Very next day showed up on the front cover, if not the front cover, in one of the main sections of the Toledo Blade, that photo. And from that moment forward, there was an instant shift, and people began to see the value in a metro park. And that's how it happened. And on November 6th, 1974, by the narrowest of margins, the $500,000 levy passed from a lot of work, from a lot of dedicated grassroots, door-to-door pound on the mantle people who made this dream come true. And it was that photo that really, really sparked it and turned the tide in favor of the beautiful Metro Park, which, of course, we have today. And after all that, Toledoans very wisely continue to support their Metro Parks at the ballot box. They understand how fortunate they are to not only have this gorgeous Wildwood Preserve Metro Park, but to have preserved it and have it as Toledo's, as far as parks go, the centerpiece of Toledo, Ohio. A park with a heart and soul, not just the heart and soul of the philanthropic family who brought it to life, but the heart and soul of the collective hearts and souls of the thousands of good Toledoans who banded together to help preserve it. How cool is that? For the History Mystery Man, I'm Don Radebaugh. I'll see you next time. So long, everyone.